It's fallen one too many times off the table and is in need of replacement.
So is that what people see?
Yep.
So
Wow,
bummed
you look
that
great,
it's
Rich.
I think I
flattering.
need glasses or
It's
something,
even
huh?
Flattering.
fuzzier than it is when we're actually here.
Oh.
Seems like there's a gradation of,
Fuzzy.
yeah, fuzziness.
That's what, it made me wonder if it was just dirt.
No,
I think it's actually the lens that it's looking out of. It's shifting pictures, but the one that's looking at Hebe is the worst.
Yep.
Like I
So
say,
you've
it's
solved the Vaseline question.
like I say, I think it's more it's fallen off the table one too many times.
Mhm. Well, Jeff was out in the parking lot.
Having a moment.
Sounded like he was listening to.
Yeah, he was
Sounded like he
getting-
was listening to rumors.
I
I
thought
don't think he was
sympathy for the
singing, he
devil,
was
but that's-
definitely enjoying some loud music.
Yeah.
Must have been a lot louder in the cab, actually.
And then David, we're not,
David's not gonna be here, he's in Los Angeles.
oh, good for him.
I hope, yes.
Well, guess we should start.
So anybody go anywhere?
So the question was, what were you listening to?
Well, one was these French artists, like Arcadian band,
Okay, good.
and then another one was the Mamas and the Papas, Rolling Stones.
So, do you,
Sympathy for the devil?
Yeah, somebody said that.
I thought I heard a little Fleetwood Mac.
Nope, there's no.
Nope.
That's right.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started with the approval of the minutes. Does anybody have any comments or?
I wondered if there was a missing section under item 3. Meeting procedures was just blank. So did that just not get put in, or?
I think I completely and totally forgot to,
Okay, so why don't we just table this until our next meeting, until that can be filled in?
We can do that. Any other comments on it while we're there?
I thought the paragraph under number 4, the last full line, such should be
It needs a period or something.
period or
Lowercase.
other ways, yeah, lowercase, I think would do it easiest, and such, yeah.
say that again, I'm trying to,
Right.
I also felt
Oh,
that some
yeah.
of the other alternatives such as. So is there a period after decreased survey, safety rather?
No, probably a
You know,
lowercase s.
I'm not convinced that backing up a traffic on the blind corners, there's not a blind corner on the Thetford side,
oh,
so.
absolutely there is. If you're heading towards, you know, you're coming in by what used to be the old garage, and you're coming around a corner and then up.
I was thinking from being in Thetford, you're coming across the railroad bridge and, oh, I see that old garage,
Yeah, just right,
yeah.
just before the bridge.
Yeah,
I say I drive it every day, and
yeah, okay, well, I stand corrected, I don't think it's too blind either way, but anyway, that, if other people do, I'm happy with keeping it there.
So what is the change that we're making to?
Just lowercase s,
Oh, okay.
instead of such.
Okay. Well, we're gonna table this till we get some filled in on item 3.
my apologies for missing that. I try to write down everything that we talked about and then go back and fill everything in, and I just,
Well, that should say something like we did adopt those procedures or whatever, and that's important to have reflected, so I don't think we should leave it blank.
Okay, so we'll come back to that next meeting.
Monday the 14th.
Item two, we put, we're gonna talk about zoning ordinance, this is the fourth Thursday of the month. And we put conversions first on the list in the thought that David invited Lynn Parshall, or let her know that we were gonna be talking about that. So maybe she'll tune in, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I did send her the Zoom link also, so.
So I guess, we wanted to firm up some of the language in the conversions, based on some of the concerns that the board had when we originally did not support it. And I guess I'm open for discussion in terms of what folks want to do, or I can
Do you have the
charge
text?
ahead. I mean, we know one of the things was the 15%.
I don't have that in front of me.
This is the,
Oh.
Second.
this is the
Oh, is it here
revised
already?
language.
The revised language,
Yeah,
yeah.
it should be in there.
Which page, what page is it?
Page 24.
Okay, thank you.
So we've got how much time to talk about?
So we've got 40 minutes.
40 minutes, okay. 4.46.
So the overall issue is what?
Well, there are a few issues. One is, if you go to paragraph G, one of the issues is that any building that's outside the Lyme Center, Lyme Common, or commercial zoning districts may be converted into no more than 6 units. Something that we had in, that doesn't agree with table 4.1. Or it's table 4.1 does not allow conversions in many of the other districts.
And that table is on which?
That table's on page 21. And so if you look down under residential, multi-dwelling conversion, that's not allowed in East Lyme, Skiway, Mountain and Forest, or Holt's Ledge districts. G,
Is that a problem? I mean, I think that's.
I don't
probably
think
a good
it's-
thing.
no, I think it's a good, I think that, I don't think that their intent was to open up the other districts
Mhm.
that currently don't allow it.
Mhm.
I think they were what they were changing was, G that said no more than 6 units shall be permitted in any building. And so they were just carrying that through.
Mhm.
But they were excluding the Lyme Center, Lyme Common, and commercial zoning districts because H is going to allow for more density.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite follow that. So, G is saying, is the issue that
It's in conflict with table 4.1.
4.1, and then if I look at 4.1 multi-dwelling conversion,
They're not allowed in East Lyme, Skiway, Mountain and Forest, Holt's Ledge, if you go across.
okay,
They're
so,
allowed by special site plan review
okay,
in the existing, the ones that are also,
gotcha. So any building outside of Lyme Center, Lyme Common, or the commercial zoning districts. So G refers specifically to the ones in the table that are excluded.
Right.
And I think
Right.
one way to cope with this is any building, I mean, the Venn diagram is, the rural district. It's allowed on 4 and not allowed
In G.
and also
Or
allowed
in
in.
4-1.
The ones that are not allowed in 4 include, the rural district is the only one that really needs to be added in G,
I think that's right,
I
yes.
disagree with that.
Well,
okay?
Okay, excellent.
Because if you go further down to office, studio, and restaurant conversions,
Ah.
there are multiple districts that are allowed.
I was gonna suggest that maybe we just add, we add something to the end of G that just says, maybe converted into no more than 6 units as permitted in table 4-1, and then that refers you to 4-1, and 4-1 is unaffected.
I wonder if we can't make it more clear, because we got kind of 2 negatives, and just to make it, any building in the, those districts where there says no, may be converted into no more than 6 units.
So that would say any building in Lyme Center, Lyme Common, commercial or rural district
Mhm.
may be converted.
To more than.
Be converted into no more
No
than.
more than, because it's the East Lyme skiway.
And I apologize for asking. Any change we make have to go back in front of the voters.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, this is
Definitely.
gonna go before the, yeah.
So it would be
And the
holds,
goal,
no.
and is the goal of G to change the table on 21? Or is it to add the capacity to have units under
H.
6 in those areas where they're excluded? What is?
I think their goal was actually, what's said in H. What they really wanted to do is to allow more expansive conversions in those 3, Lyme Center, Lyme Common, and commercial zoning districts. And they didn't do the cross-reference with table 4 to see that the conversions of more than 6 units.
I would just have the board read the first sentence, under 446 conversions.
Mhm.
If a use is permitted in table 4-1.
It seems that that's already been,
Mhm. So East Lyme is by definition out by that first sentence.
yep.
And
Maybe we just take out G. If that first sentence is.
But you still have the issue of the 6 units, or not more than 6 units.
First of all, I don't like the fact that this says conversions. I think it should say, what we're talking about, if we're just talking about, the multi-dwelling conversions, which is what's in the table. I would want it to be consistent with, what it says in the table, so change the title. So we're talking about the same conversions.
so you're suggesting changing the heading of that
Heading,
section to
yeah,
be
yeah.
4.46, multi-dwelling conversions.
Right, just like it says in the table.
But what about office, studio, and restaurant conversions?
Right.
Well,
Those are further down in table 4-1.
Well, I think that in that we have a different, I don't know, I think they should be dealt with separately.
So have a separate table for business.
We'll have a separate language or a separate set of conditions or whatever. Or, we say, or have a table here that if A applies to both, then, they apply to both. But the general conversions, I mean,
I think if we want to make it easier to actually apply this, we need to do as much simplified,
Yes,
making
yeah.
things as more, as straightforward as possible,
well,
so
I think it's specific, cause And I think since we're talking about residential conversions, let's see where that ends up and not talk about office, studio, restaurant conversions now. But I think we've been thinking about residential stuff, and that's the intent, I think, that our petitioners had for the zoning amendment as well, so.
What, it was my understanding that they were maybe wanting to leave, I mean, I noticed Dowd's is on the market, but, I thought I had heard that they were thinking about doing a partial conversion of Dowd's and still allowing a commercial use as well.
Mhm. Okay, well, I wonder if,
And G certainly does address
Units.
commercial units.
Yes, it does.
Right.
yeah,
They can be converted into no more than 6 units. Is it typical to have something like this speak to a negative instead of, in other words, this is what you can't do versus here's what you can do?
Depends if it's the Constitution.
well, we have, I think what's called, I don't know if it's called permissive one, that
Right.
if it's not, like,
It's
if,
not
the- if
listed.
the list, yeah, and to, yeah, if it's not listed, then you can't do it.
Okay.
So, and so.
As opposed to the Constitution, which says if it's not enumerated here, it's allowed.
So, I apologize that this must be very clear to you guys.
No, it's
but-
not. Don't make any assumptions.
All right. I don't understand, I do not understand what the goal of G is. So what I see listed is something about a limit on units and a locations. Okay? And so my presumption is that somewhere else, there is mention of a limit of units that applies to other places. Is that
So-
the case?
Yeah, so Rich, make clarification, I'm looking at the 2024 ordinance where section G simply said, no more than 6 units shall be permitted in any building. So that's the starting place.
Okay,
So you
So
can't
it's-
do it in the East Line or the skiway district or this or that.
Anywhere.
And then you wanna do a conversion, you can do no more than 6 units. So that's sort of the starting foundational assumption.
is that there's no more than 6 units in any conversion anywhere in town?
Including Lyme Center,
Right,
Lyme
right.
County.
But anywhere,
Yes,
anywhere.
exactly.
Right.
And then this language that the zoning amendment brought forward was, well, in the Lyme Center Common or Commercial District, you can put in as many units as fit, was kind of, I think, what they were aiming at. And so, I mean,
Where's that part listed? Where's that?
that's section H. And there's a lot of other language there about 5 years old.
It says, yeah, no more than 6 commercial units and any number of residential units.
That
So-
fit into,
Yeah,
that fit into the structure, so that the planning board is not responsible for setting a limit on how much you can do. The economics will, all those
The
other things.
physical plan. will
Right, but
set
this
that.
building was there, let them do as much as they can. And so,
So is that to say that because G is the place that limits units to 6, that infers that everywhere else can just, it has no limits? Is that what's inferred by G?
I think just the opposite of that. Anything within the Lyme Center, Lyme Common, or commercial,
Right.
Doesn't have a count limit,
doesn't have a count limit, but everything outside of those.
has a 6 count limit.
Right.
But
I think that's so what I'm saying, so
But
G
table
says,
4 does not
if you're
allow it.
outside Lime Center, Lime Common, or the commercial zoning districts, if you're outside that, you don't have anything, you don't have any limits.
No, if it's outside, you have 6.
Yep. So could we say any building in the East Lyme Skiway, Holt's Ledge, and Mountain Forest District may be converted to no more than 6 residential or commercial units? Because if we
No.
just, well, okay, so, but no more than 6 units, because this conversion thing evidently deals with both our office and other, so then we need to make clear that if commercial units aren't appropriate, to no more than 6 residential units, or, you know, and no commercial units, I mean, we need to say that. That's what we mean.
Is it worth thinking about, ignoring the words, is it worth thinking about what we'd like it to say? What would be consonant with what the petitioners brought forward, but also what our intuition says? I mean, we already said you can't do it in East Lyme Skiway and whatever districts. I'm comfortable with continuing that. I don't think it was the intent of the petitioners to change those.
Which are the table.
Which table
Which is
1.4
consistent with the
says,
table, yeah.
table 4.1 says, I mean, I think, Phoebe, you're right, that it really is only the rural district. Maybe G just says, in the rural district, may be converted into 6 units. And
Could I-
then,
Could I
and then
request that
H,
somebody make a statement that they think is congruent with what the desired outcome is? If somebody thinks they can do that, I would like to hear what,
I guess I would say, change G to say, in the rural district.
A building may be
A
converted.
building may be converted, yeah,
To no more than 6 residential units.
yep.
okay.
And
So
then-
in the rural district, a building may be converted into no more than 6 units.
Residential units.
Residential.
Okay, so if that's the, if that's what at least some members of the group feel is what was the goal of that, if we use that language, how would that correlate with table 4.1?
Well, because the first sentence of 4.46 conversions says if a use is permitted,
Which it is.
then it's not, and on table 4.1, it's not permitted in anything in those
Right.
East Lyme.
So this
Holt's Ledge.
language would require that table 4.1 be changed.
No,
No.
No,
it doesn't,
It wouldn't.
which is a good thing.
it
Okay.
says rural is SPR,
Yeah.
so we're just trying to clarify that. And then the other 3
Or
are.
no, not allowed.
So it's,
What's SPR?
I'm sorry,
Same-
no,
same
no, it's
language.
not allowed.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, yeah.
In,
Holt's Ledge, East Lyme, Skiway,
yeah, pretty much my neighborhood.
yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Too bad.
All right,
Yeah.
that's okay.
No hotel for you.
No hotel for me, and I'm very happy about that. My daughters may not be though. Okay, so the goal of G is now to clarify that in the rural district, and it's specific to the rural district because somewhere else, rural district is not identified or is not,
I'm not quite sure your question.
yeah, and I apologize, I don't
No,
mean to be
that's
taking
okay,
so much
this is,
airtime.
you're new, this is complicated, so yeah, it's okay.
So,
Not being new, still is
the
complicated.
reason that G was included in, and I don't know if this is what we're calling this a petition, is because somewhere else,
No, it's because of H. They wanted to
Because of
remove
H.
the 6-unit limit for those 3 districts.
okay, for any building that is within Lyme Center, Lyme Common, commercial zoning is, if the building is more than 5 units, it may be converted into more than 6 units. And any number of residential units that fit into the existing structure plus 15%. Okay,
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, I don't think anything needs to be changed.
No?
No, because, think of it like a flow chart.
Yep.
So you start out with 446 conversions. If a use is permitted in table 4.1, so you go to table 4.1 and you look at the uses. And then,
And none of them permitted, right?
right, well, you have other conversions, you know, the business conversions.
Those are all no or site plan review, there's no.
Right, but
garage.
there's, it's, you know, allowed by site plan review, so it
But
is.
that's not permitted, that's site plan review. That's a different thing. Yes, Y is permitted.
Okay, but site plan review is not a no.
It's right, but it's not a yes.
Yes
You-
means by right.
Right, but.
That's right. Yes,
It doesn't matter.
Down here, because they use the word permitted here. So it is permitted, it's just like the zoning, if you had to go to
Okay,
the zoning
okay,
board.
fair enough, fair enough.
Well, I'm right with you, because is it really permitted and, you know,
I mean,
but if it needs zoning review, is that permitted? And the answer is yes, and that's
I
just.
mean,
a-
not just anything is permitted, it has to fit the standards
Right.
of the site
Right.
plan review.
Right.
So it's permitted with a giant asterisk.
asterisk,
That's
right.
first, and as are so many of the ones that even say yes, because you may need to go to the zoning board, you know, for even a yes thing.
But I guess
Because
to
of
me,
where it's
that
located.
first sentence is confusing.
The use is permitted.
And I don't see why it's necessary. And G, it looks like it was continued, it was reworded simply because it was there before.
Yes.
And
That's
the
what
only
I-
way that they could correct it was to word it this way.
But I think-
But when they worded it this way, it really was sort of ludicrous.
But I think
because
the
none of
language
them
we just
were
came up
actually
with is simpler and requires less bouncing around to make it clear. Replacing G with the language we just stated.
Which is, in the rural district, a building may be converted into no more than 6 residential units. So long as there's a site plan review.
Right.
Right, and I think, you know, if we're searching for a synonym for the word permitted, to say allowed by site plan review, or allowed after zoning board review, or whatever, I'm not anxious to go through this whole ordinance and find all those
Right.
and
How about,
substitute.
how about this? If I was gonna reword G,
Mm-hmm.
I would have repeated the old G and said, except with regard to H below. So I would have said, no building in Lyme can be converted into more than 6 units except for C below.
So, well, I mean, you could even continue, except.
Or you could continue it and
to say,
skip
except in,
H. You could have
in
made
this
G
Lyme Center
the,
common and whatever.
and that would have been the clearest thing.
Mhm.
Because then you wouldn't have had to do this kind of somersault with G.
Yeah.
So Nate, could you, no building in Lyme may exceed 6 residential
Read
units.
the old one again.
I got it here,
Rich.
just a sec. The original was no more than 6 units shall be permitted in any building. And so that could be G, and
No,
then.
conversion to no more than 6 units.
Well, it doesn't say conversion because this is conversions,
Right.
but it just says.
Well, it says in conversion on F, so you basically, I don't see, that you could
Well,
just
we should also
eliminate the conversion part.
be specific about residential or commercial here.
So, the
But-
old language.
But it's 6
says-
units commercial also,
Yeah.
right?
The
So-
old, right,
It's 6 units, period.
the old language says permitted in, doesn't mention, residential, just says no more than 6
Yep.
units shall be permitted, so. I am consonant with the spirit there, and then either, to say, except in center, common, and commercial districts. And then.
But it's just getting a little too, I would just say, except for,
As in specified in H below.
except for as specified in
Okay,
H
sure,
below.
yep.
And then let's tackle H below.
Okay.
So what are you saying again
No
now?
building in Lyme may exceed 6 residential units except those,
Except 6 units. It didn't say residential.
I thought we were suggesting what changes.
Well,
we
yeah, I
made.
think it's, the reason they left out residential is because it's also 6 commercial units.
Okay.
So they didn't need to specify.
Okay.
Am I right,
Yep.
David? Yeah, so.
So no building in Lyme may exceed 6 units except those outlined in
It's
H.
Specified.
Or specified.
Yeah, except those specified
Mhm.
in H. All right, so what G essentially does is it says, our baseline is no buildings in Lyme to exceed 6 units except those, 6 units. And then H says, here are the exceptions to G.
Right.
Just from an outside standpoint, that makes a whole lot more sense in terms of what G does.
Yep.
Right. And it
Because
doesn't-
G is implying something that can't happen.
And I can't even figure out which,
Right.
is this trying to address
Except in
the
one
Lyme Center,
district.
Lyme
Except
Common,
in
and
one
commercial?
district,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right. So,
All right, so now I understand the role of G. G is saying, hey, no more than 6 units, except for H.
and, so, I talked briefly with the folks that submitted this early on, and, I think they were trying to appease the town, and they put in a lot of language about if the building's older than 5 years, and this and that, and a lot of things, that make it confusing. And so again, I can't speak for the petitioners here, but that if we simplified that, to say, buildings in the Lyme Center Common and Commercial District, basically can have no more than 6 commercial units and any number of residential units.
So are you now suggesting language for H?
That's already there.
That's right, yes.
I want, before we move on to
Yes.
H,
Mhm.
because it says 6 units, it means that it could be office, studio, restaurant, et cetera,
Right.
which are allowed by special site plan,
Mhm.
site plan review in more areas than residential conversions are allowed. If you look at table 4.
Mhm.
I'm wondering, how did East Lyme ever get in there?
Right.
I mean,
And
you know,
mountain and
This
forest.
doesn't make any sense. It's almost like a typo.
So can we, how do we go about changing a table in this document?
Same
Same
way
Same
as,
process, yeah.
same
Right.
process, I think.
I mean, you just, in the zoning amendment next March, it says
So-
changing.
Dave, seeing that you're gonna be largely enforcing this, if we change G to what we just discussed, which is no building in Lyme may exceed 6 units except those specified in H, and the question about business comes up, where do you see there's inconsistencies?
I have no issues with that, because it, again, I look at the zoning, like I say, like a flow chart. So I start at the conversions and it says if a use is permitted in table 4.1, and I will take permitted as
Yeah,
site
okay.
plan review and permitted.
Right.
Then, okay, then that can be allowed. And then the second sentence is any conversion requiring site plan review has all these other criteria. So we go through And, the criteria is, no building in Lyme may be, exceed 6 units. So, and then it's with the exception of H. That to me works just fine.
So the fact that we have, that was just raised, that site plan review is allowed in East Lyme and Mountain and Forest, is that a concern?
And rural for that matter, I mean, I would say those 3 districts.
Okay, so,
For office, studio, restaurant conversion, that, do we really want up to 6 units allowed anywhere, in those districts? I would say no, we don't, I mean, East Lyme has bad roads, Mountain and Forest doesn't have roads. And rural, I don't think there's many people who really would want like a 6-unit office building kind of in their neighborhood.
all right,
So
so,
there are targets for conversion in rural. Are there any targets for conversion?
What do you mean by target name?
I mean, it's Nat.
Sorry, God, I know that, I'm just, and Jeff called your name,
Oh, did I?
it's
I'm
stuck,
Sorry,
it's
just for
stuck.
anybody who's interested.
Oh, sorry.
right.
The target would be, I mean, the conversion target is a building that's over 5 years old that has had electricity and plumbing for 5 years, I guess, that's right. And so the question is, and that implies that it's a relatively large building that was once used in some kind of business that required people because they needed electricity and plumbing.
Could be a
So,
barn.
well, maybe,
Or a house.
but
Yeah.
houses, barns don't often have bathrooms, I mean,
Well,
they don't.
A lot of,
Some
a
do.
lot of
Well, some
barns
do,
in
some do
Lyme.
now,
Some do.
but, they might not.
All right, so,
But the idea was to encourage conversions, and so I'm wondering, were there targets for conversion in any of those places? And I don't think so, at least in
I
East
can't-
Lyme
I
and
can't
in
think.
Mountain and Forest, but there were targets in the rural district, so if that speaks to why they are site plan review,
Mhm.
then maybe that had something to do with it, but I agree with you, it doesn't seem like it's consistent
Mhm.
with the objectives of those districts.
I think we should ask the public what they think and,
yeah.
for,
So really what we're talking about when we're doing this is, it is this board's feeling that we would recommend modifying the table.
yes,
This is not connected back to,
No.
or
No.
it's ancillary
yes.
Yeah.
to this. All right, so I think what we've done, we've just identified a different
Yeah,
issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
under conversions.
and right now,
Tangentially.
right, yeah, and so right now, that recommended change is to go from site plan review to no,
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
In the,
SPR,
In both
To-
those districts.
in all
rural
three.
and East Lyme,
and Forest
and
and
Mountain
Mountain.
and Forest.
So, rural, East Lyme, and Mountain and Forest, which are currently site plan review, would be recommended to be no.
No.
All right,
Do we wanna make, just double checking that we really need that for rural as well?
I would argue against rural, I mean, there's a state road flowing through.
remind me where rural is?
Take a look in the back of the book.
Yeah, it's basically everything, we have a better picture that didn't make it into the,
Yeah, I've got one of those where.
Rural is like half of the town.
If
Take
you
anything,
look under,
The
Appendix
western
D.
portion,
Appendix D. The thing is that allowing it and actually directing the growth to some other areas is, I think, part of our job. And where would we really like to see it? It's not throughout the rural district, it's in, those,
Here's the zoning map.
yeah, it's in those areas, the commercial
Rural's
and,
white.
and village areas. So, I mean, just because we've got a state highway running through, I mean, that isn't necessarily the best place for those things, if we wanna concentrate our business activities and, you know, parking lots and that type of thing.
Is there a reason we don't have a zone that is Route 10
It's,
corridor?
well, because you tend to get, kind of sprawled development along that, and that's, you know, if you ask for it, it's gonna be there. And what we've tried to do is focus our development into our village nodes.
Okay.
And, you know, in that, like, Lyme Village is kind of far to Hanover Village,
Mhm.
and you used to have, like, kind of a mix of uses, like, you know, where the fire station was, and then there was that pizza stuff at 45 Lyme Road, that kind of, you know, and so the commercial is kind of a node that's in between downtown Hanover and downtown
And that's,
Lyme.
what's his name's old shop, which is now Brett Ryan's development.
Right.
Right, yep,
Well,
Maxfield's.
going back through,
Down Crossroads.
Yeah.
to Crossroads.
Crossroads is part of that?
Yeah,
That's a-
Crossroads and
And then
13
across the,
Valley Highway.
and then across the street too.
The river,
Pondview.
Pondview.
On View, and then the next parcel that we just approved a
The
subdivision.
Downs
on.
parcel.
What's it called?
The Downs,
Downs?
Seth Downs.
Yeah,
is that right?
So,
So
I-
that's what I would argue, is that we're trying to concentrate those things, but, I mean, that's a land use pattern that is pretty consistent with development in New England.
So,
And where you
to-
don't have it along,
Right.
you know, the strip.
But to, to the point where you don't think that it should include the rural, that's a huge part, that's normally like half of the town, right? So,
so I mean, if you were thinking about a conversion
Mhm.
in the rural district, I mean, a candidate building might be like, what, Teller's Barn?
is what?
Teller's Barn.
Mhm.
On North Thetford Road.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly, I mean, it's just, I just find it very helpful to think of concrete examples of like,
Mhm.
in or out, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that would be perfectly fine for residential development. I don't agree with the whole studio office, well, you know, that kind of thing.
Okay,
And, so that, I mean, I think that's residential and probably people have lived there, not just the animals.
oh, yeah,
I mean, the farmhands,
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure live there.
exactly, and that's why I was saying, it has
Yeah.
plumbing and electricity.
Yeah.
So we're essentially saying that any office studio restaurant conversion has to take place in these three locations. The commercial, the common, or Lime Center. And there's some sense that the rural district should not be excluded. Is that what I'm hearing?
Right, I mean, it's currently allowed.
We haven't had a big rash of it happening.
Sure.
And so,
I mean, I don't think that's a good argument.
Well, I mean, Orford has no zoning, they have no affordable housing,
Right.
so, I mean, there's
There's
all
Still
kinds
don't
of,
think it's a good
there
argument.
are all kinds of arguments
Yeah.
back, so, but I'm
Yeah,
just,
I mean, I think it's lovely to go with an old converted house, I mean, like, what's that one down in Queechee, you know? It's not Village Farm, but there's Marshland Farm.
Right.
That's an old house that's been converted, and that's lovely. But, you know, what I think is good about Lyme is if it's in the village center, you get to go out, you get to walk around the common, you can go get your ice cream at the country store. And that's kind of more the development that I think we should be encouraging than, you know, destination driving to somebody's old house that, you know, for the most part, we've got dirt roads and it's an inconvenience to neighbors.
And at that point, I'm gonna stop with people because we're hit the 40-minute.
Good timekeeping,
thank you,
because I
David.
think we're having a productive discussion. But I think what we need to do is say, the question is out for rural,
Well, and,
in terms of
and, you know,
summarizing.
this is where I think we should maybe talk to the town. Ask,
Well, you know, in the
How could-
context of a zoning amendment, we would get people coming out to tell us what they thought. But it seems like we have come up with a rewording of G
Yes.
and a amendment to table 4.1. We can agree on that the SPN should be changed to N for Mountain and Forest, East Lyme, and for the office, restaurant, and studio conversion. And then I think we need to do a whole lot of work on H.
And I don't think, I guess my feeling is that conversions to up to 6 units in particular are not consistent with the objectives of the rural district as written in this.
I agree with you.
Which are
So one strategy
To
when you hit a
maintain
time
and
limit is you
foster-
can agree to add 5 or 10 minutes if you wanna keep talking about this topic. The group can, the time limits are not like
Right.
etched.
Well, I do think we should,
I think
should,
we ought to nail down
Okay.
the rest of H, that's the problem. We got 15% of what, and we also have to talk about what that 15% can be used for.
yes.
Because I think those are 2 key issues here.
I think there are some other issues, you know, that Rich has, and I think that's gonna take a fair amount of time, and
Okay, which, Evan, we can,
Which Rich are you speaking of?
it's me.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, so, so we've agreed, the second language is what we're thinking of for G, which is no building in Lyme may be converted.
No building in Lyme may exceed 6 units except those specified in H.
I think you better put converted to into that, because it doesn't make sense to just leave
No
it
building in Lyme may be converted to,
Yes.
Yeah,
more than 6 units.
okay, may be converted to
6 units.
more than or 6 units?
More than.
More than.
More than.
Okay.
6
No building
units.
in Lyme no building in Lyme may be converted to more than 6 units except those specified in H. Right. No building in
Except
Lyme
as
may be,
specified in
Yeah,
H.
yeah, except as specified.
except as specified?
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll have another chance to polish this, but I
Yeah.
think that's,
So do you have that, Dave?
Yes, I have that,
Okay,
That's good.
and so that will go, you know,
so hallelujah, we've got maybe,
We did good.
we've made some progress.
Yeah, awesome.
And then,
And then I think just to confirm that there is a desired revision unassociated with this to office, studio, restaurant conversions on table 4.1,
Yeah.
which involve rural, East Lyme, and Mountain and Forest. And right now, there is stronger consensus that East Lyme and Mountain and Forest is no. And there is some discussion about whether the rural district should be a no or remain as site plan review.
correct.
Is that,
Yep.
Mhm.
okay? Dave, does that detail go into the minutes?
yeah, I'll put those in so that we have a kind of a
Running record?
running record.
Okay,
Rich,
and,
do
Go
we
ahead,
want to ask
Evie.
about the member of the public here?
yes, I'm curious who you are and,
Hi.
and
Yeah.
whether you're here to just observe or what.
Yes. So, my name's Renee Thial. Actually, you might remember
Oh,
me.
yeah,
I'm
right.
a little different, but I was
What
here
was
from
your last name
the
again?
Thial.
Okay.
Theall. I'm from the Upper Valley Lakes and Mabee Regional Planning Commission.
Oh, okay.
And so I was just popping in. I'm working on behalf of, you folks might know Ellen Hender Biocommunities. We're partnering with them just to kind of assist as things are going through in town and just kind of give our support and see if there's anything we can help with, so, yeah.
Oh, well, that's great. So, So what exactly are you doing with Vital Communities?
So, yeah,
And
so.
what's your purpose for I mean, we
Yeah.
welcome
We
you to
welcome
our
you.
meeting.
No, that's okay. Why am I
And
here?
your help.
Yeah,
And we would,
sure.
yes.
Yeah, so I think that's, so
Would you like
Vital
some homework?
Communities, I know, right, exactly. So that's part of it. I'm absolutely more than willing to help. So Vital Communities, Ellen, had been in conversation with some folks in town, and as like kind of, you know, conversations towards housing and different things like that. And knowing that the ordinance, the petitioned amendment went through, and just kind of realizing that there might be some need for technical assistance, and so we're kind of partnering with them if there's any need for that technical assistance. We have some hours available there to help through this couple months. So yeah, I'm happy to connect outside too, and I'm just kind of jumping in and getting to know folks and meeting folks at the board's meetings. So yeah, you'll probably see me again in the near future.
Okay, go ahead, Vicki.
So I had a question. Is
Sure.
Vital Communities working with a group in town currently?
They were like, I don't know, like directly, but they were meeting with a few folks, or just kind of chatting with folks, having some connections, but nothing like,
It's nothing formal?
no,
Okay.
not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we'd want to kind of piggyback on that. I mean, we're doing a lot of work around housing here. And so would you be then, if we were to come up with ideas, would you check how we drafted them and check to see that it's consistent with the rest of the ordinance, or, you know, that kind of thing?
Yeah, we could, I could certainly check in with the team on that. We could probably do some of that. And I think the thing too, like, is the outreach component. So like to your point earlier, the comments of like getting outreach, you know, to the public and getting their input. That's kind of where we can assist with as well, or kind of garnering feedback, assisting with that if needed.
Go ahead.
So I wondered, what have you done with other communities to that end, and what you think would be appropriate for Lyme?
Yeah, so we've assisted quite a few communities now on housing topics. I would say as of late, we did a public forum. The Enfield zoning ordinance didn't pass, but there was some bumps along the way. But there's some really good community engagement leading up to it last year, and they did 2 public forums at their community building. And the UVLS RPC, we were their consultant for the HOP, and so we assisted in kind of setting that up, getting kind of the structure going. It was a 3-hour event, which I think is a really good time frame. We had 50 people attend, just over 50 people in attendance there that day for the first one. And but it doesn't have to be quite that formal. You know, we kind of reviewed why we're there, what's happening, what we're looking at, what the town was looking at changing. The board kind of gave their updates. And then we kind of got into it. They were focusing in on 3 zones. So it sounds like you guys are kind of similar, like you're looking at it zone by zone, or like kind of maybe honing in on areas. And if you have an idea of what area, you know, kind of setting that to the public in a forum and at a table, and be like, all right, what is it about this area? What are the highs, what are the lows, you know? What are things you'd like to see, not see, and getting that feedback from them. So that's just one way. Surveys are another. If, you know, the board wanted to do a survey out to the town, we could assist with that as well.
Mhm.
So, those kinds of things would be free of charge, or would we be needing to pay you for that?
Yeah, I'd have to double check. Like, I think we have definitely some time each month. As it stands right now, our assistance through Vital Communities and the housing topic specific to Lyme is through June, but I can definitely check in with my executive director and see what we can do. And there's like time and availability there. The point is for the outreach component, so definitely an option to
Okay,
assist with
because,
that.
you know, right now, it's April.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what we'd pull off before
Yeah.
June, because we still don't have we're trying to
Yeah.
find our way and
Yeah.
what we would recommend, so
Yeah.
but if,
So we can see, I mean, it may extend, I don't know
Yeah.
at the current state right now. I am So Ellen Hender, she was the one working on the project, but she's the interim director right now at Vital Communities. So with her changing, that's where they kind of asked for our help. And seeing as it's kind of, could lead into some technical assistance, the RPC were more than happy to help assist with that and review the ordinance too, if you'd like, so.
Do you have to like spend that money by June 30th, is that the?
So we have
situation?
contracted so many hours per month right now. You know, if the board wanted, you know, we can certainly see how things progress with Vital Communities and the support there, but if the board wanted to, of course, like work with the RPC and draft a contract up as you're going through this year, we're happy to also look at that. But if not, you know, we do have technical assistance. You guys are a community of ours, and so there's some availability there as well too, so.
Yeah, I think one of the concerns we probably have is that we don't have a budget to
Yep.
hire anybody, but.
Yeah.
But through our normal dues and
Yeah.
any programs
Yep.
that you have,
Yep.
we might be able to avail ourselves of
Mhm.
your services. But as Vicky has said, you know,
Yeah,
June is coming right up and,
Yeah.
so
right,
the
and it may
logistics of that
extend,
is
but,
difficult.
yeah, and I can keep you guys posted. It may extend, it may, you know, I can certainly look into, you know, assistance and helping throughout the year as well through the dues as being a member of the RPC.
Mhm.
And certainly look at that and see what that would look like, to make sure that we kind of schedule that in and give that assistance to you guys as you're working through this. Cause it's a big change and, you know, we wanna be able to support our communities, so
Mhm.
happy to help.
But-
Can I just speak personally? I think
Yeah.
it'd be wonderful if you could assist with outreach, and we would need to make a commitment amongst the board to have something ready to be shared with the public by probably the end of September. And if we were able to reserve time
Sure.
for something that would be at basically no cost, because we don't have a
Sure.
budget for anything
Yep.
special,
Mhm.
that'd be good. So if you could tell us,
Okay.
like, if, you
Yeah.
know, what something like that might look like, if it
Sure.
was a forum or.
I think there's two places I would see, the first is we get our act together and
Yes.
figure out
Yeah.
sort of in a blob of what we want.
Mhm.
And we enroll in some help to
Mhm.
get that into a final form
Mhm.
and get the bugs out. And then, do the outreach.
Yeah.
So you guys are shooting for maybe September for that? or
In
like-
order to get things
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
ballot for
Yeah.
next March, we
Yeah.
have to, that would be about the timeline.
Yeah, that would be good, okay.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'm sorry we didn't recognize
No.
you earlier.
That's okay, you guys were in the thick of it, I arrived a few minutes late, so I apologize, but no, all good
Okay.
work.
So, we should come back to this, next meeting.
And focus on H.
Focus on H. I think it would be fair,
The fourth? Or do you wanna do it at
oh,
the fourth Thursday, or
Well, what's happening next?
at the moment, I have nothing.
I would think we would maybe continue on this
Okay.
if we,
On the 14th?
on the 14th.
Yeah, that's right, you know, doesn't matter to me, I'm just,
I think one thing that would be food for thought, though, is, David, I think what you expressed to me on this 15% in chatting with Lynn is that they were thinking of 15% of the footprint.
yes, that is,
So that's just something for folks to think about
Mm-hmm.
in terms of what
The intent was?
what the petitioner's intent was.
You have some
But-
specific concerns, I sense, about H.
Well, but we could get into that.
But
one.
no,
Well-
I know.
Yeah, we can get into
No,
that
no,
at
I
that
know.
point.
I'm just wondering if you wanted to lay them out a little bit so people can be more thoughtful the next time. And
No.
not now.
Oh.
but what I was bringing up
Right.
was, you know, that you have some concerns about when you're doing a conversion, how much of the existing building needs to remain to, and how, you know, in order to try to prevent, you know, the feel of the
Trying to get
particular.
into a pink Marriott.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
and that was the only
And
big
it
issue-
kind of goes part and parcel, if you want to take a look at section 8.26, which is replacement, restoration, and reconstruction.
On what page?
That is page 50, I believe.
Do you want to lay out your concerns so that we can, and email them around so that we can be
I
more
suppose-
thoughtful, instead of having it all be new?
Yeah,
And
I
that
can
might be-
try to do that. I'm
Just, you
having
know,
surgery though on Tuesday, and I expect to
Well,
not
so you'll be
be.
sitting,
You'll be
doing
sitting
nothing
around.
afterwards.
And that's the time that they tell you not to do legal stuff.
Yeah, right, don't sign any documents.
Don't sign it, and I'm not gonna send you guys anything,
No,
because I will live
but-
to regret it.
but just before the 14th, it's just, you know, so
Yeah.
we can do a little mental homework.
Sure.
I have concerns also that
You too.
and Mike can lay them out, they are that there needs to be a restriction, and hopefully it would be zero in my mind, as to how much of that 15% could go towards either creating new units or expansion of units. In other words, that 15% could only be used for structural necessities like stairwells,
So
et cetera.
do you wanna make your list too, and just share them back?
And
with
I
me?
believe that was the intent of, because the way it was written is changes to the structure to support the conversion, and I
Right.
think that they were trying to make an attempt to
Right,
say.
that needed to be said more direct.
Right,
more-
and
Yeah.
not,
clearly.
I think it
Not adding
is,
bathrooms, because the bedroom doesn't have a bathroom.
right, no, it
That's not
is to
included in
support,
that.
you know, if you need to add a stairwell, if you need to add a elevator,
Right, exactly.
fire escape, those types of things were,
Yeah,
when I had my initial conversations with them, that was the type of thing that they were discussing for the 15%, not being able to add 15% more rooms.
Right.
So I think that's very much in the spirit of what they intended.
Are those things, is there a category for those things, like emergency egress or even access or?
I don't think, I think the way it was written was because they didn't have an idea of how you would,
I
and
understand.
I don't have a good description of what you would call those.
Okay, so there isn't any
Yeah.
specific terminology that would refer to,
Well, it could be like code compliance, building code compliance.
okay,
I mean, because those are your fire escapes
Yep.
and your second means of egress and, you know, wider stairwells or something like
What
that.
I don't know, you know, and again, this would be up for discussion, is would you include mechanical rooms? You know, so you can keep the main
Yeah,
structure for adding rooms, or, you know, apartments, whatever you wanna call them, units. And then, you know, if you need to have a mechanical room for heating hot water to support those. I do believe that was part of what they were considering, that there may be, you may need some of that space, especially if you don't have basement space to,
Well, especially if you have a wood frame structure and you're putting in a big boiler and.
right, you may need to put in
Different-
firewalls.
Different kind of construction to contain that.
And you're sure it was footprint and not like gross floor area or something like that?
Again, in my discussions, footprint was the intent, but that
So let's-
wasn't what got into
let's,
the.
let's just compile this all and have
Yeah.
a full discussion next time.
Right, so on the 14th, I'm not gonna be here, so if we can get a list out before, like the week before, then I could at least provide some comments. My daughter's getting married that week, and so I'm gonna be distracted.
Okay,
Are you gonna be back in the saddle here by May 14th?
I hope so.
Okay.
Should, it's 2.5 weeks. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is discussion of lodging and accommodations. And Nat has prepared I'm thinking this is it's called an article, but I'm thinking it's something that we might want to adopt or consider adopting. with modifications, but just something for.
Right, it's a draft.
It's a draft. And I'm not quite sure where we want to start on that. I think,
Did everybody get a chance to look at it?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
it's an opus magnus.
So, you know, I basically just started it, because I wanted to, learn about, you know, how you might answer the question. And once I had sort of exhaustively produced a list of different transient, non-transient dwelling, accommodations, Rich asked me, well, how would you, and I filled out the table just as it would be filled out if you expanded the one-liner here. And he said, well, how would you fill it out now that it's, you know, if you could put Ys and Ns, you know, into this? And so that raises the question of how do you actually make those decisions? And so, the second part of it was trying to lay out criteria for how you make those decisions. And in sort of working through that, I think you're sort of confronted with definitions that are more or less precise, or hopefully more precise, that you can write, or that you could do site plan review around. And then the issue actually also comes up of how you have to tailor a site plan review to the particular accommodation use and to the particular district. Because, you know, a bed and breakfast in the village might be different than a bed and breakfast in the rural area. And one of less scale might be more desirable in the rural district than in the village. So it sort of blossomed into a lot of different things. And this draft was meant to sort of lay out the whole thought process and methodology and what I got to. The only other thing that resulted from it is that I tried to address non-transient lodging and accommodations also, and went into sort of rabbit holes over things like, I don't know, unhosted, long-term, hosted, long-term, let's see, there was a couple of other ones, congregate living situations, transitional living situations.
How is unhosted long-term different from an apartment?
Well, exactly.
Okay,
In other words, that's really not a lodging, it's a residence.
yeah,
And so it belongs under residential. If you wanna map out what the, you know, what the site plan reviews and yeses and nos would be, I think they're probably accurate, the way that I've mapped them out. But I don't think that it belongs under lodging and accommodations. I don't believe that either hosted or unhosted long-term really fits. I don't believe that assisted living fits. I think that's under either residential or institutional. Transitional housing, really the same thing. And dormitories under institutional. So I think those are all areas that you know, we could probably drop from our table, because, not because the maps are difficult to do, they're easy to do and they make sense if you use the methodology, but because they just don't belong there. They belong someplace else in table 4.1. So that's the journey, and I guess, you know, I'm interested in the feedback. I've actually, you know, this week I went over it again, and I sort of actually wrote a whole nother section on sort of justifying the position that I took for each one of the uses, in terms of where it should be permitted and where it shouldn't. based on the criteria that I had, you know, sort of a little narrative that talks about the objectives of the district in question, that talks about the impact, whether it's high or low, talks about, you know, all of the, you know, the criteria that I wanted to use to make the decisions. And so I can give that to you, but right, I didn't make 11 or 6 copies.
It's a lot of work.
Go ahead, Vicki.
I think it's a lot of work, and I like it because it's, you know, laid out really logically. And I think this is a great working document because it'll enable us to go through it step by step by step. And when we can come to agreement about that, then I think it can be integrated, you know, into our zoning ordinance, you know, as you say, with campgrounds, you know, maybe is their own little thing. But this is really helpful. It's like a workbook almost for us to use, and you know, how we build our own consensus around how these uses should be accommodated in town. So I'd like to work on this as a workbook and work on the concepts, and then worry about how it goes into the zoning later, and maybe that's what the RPC can do for us.
I did have a question, Nat, did you, remember we had a whole discussion when it was just a few of us here about lodging accommodations, and we came up with the concept of a, sort of a state road overlay as a way to manage the fact that, things are allowed in places that you can't really get to in April. To avoid that problem.
So like, that Queens didn't necessarily open
Correct.
I think that my own feeling is that solves part of the impact problem, but it creates another. And that is that Route 10 courses its way through a lot of different types of areas. Some you might think would be fine for certain things, and others you would say, no, this is not fine. And I think that is not gonna be accounted for. And it's difficult to account for that variation within the rural district. That's why I don't like the idea. That's the main reason. Like, I mean, for example, Route 10 North is a much different place than Route 10 Post Pond.
As is Dorchester Road, which is a state road, or North Thetford
Or
Road.
North Thetford, or,
Yeah.
you know, so there are things that could happen on Route 10 North that shouldn't happen, in my opinion, in Post Pond. So, you know, I guess it's, because I would assume that you would be creating this area in order to be more aggressively developing in the rural area in that, along Route 10.
Oh, I thought we
And-
were thinking more of protecting areas by focusing on those places those roads that actually could take whatever traffic was auxiliary to the usage.
Right, we were protecting the other areas. And so
Exactly.
we were more aggressively developing on Route 10, because it could handle the traffic, because it could handle the impact. But, you know, I think that, I don't know, I think that's a potential recipe for overdeveloping some places in Lyme that in my view should not be. So
Well,
that's-
having that wouldn't overrule other restrictions.
What, I'm sorry, what are you proposing that somehow we tie, say, Route 10 or state roads into the definition of what becomes permissible versus not permissible?
Yeah.
And Nate, to your point,
Nat,
that's right, yeah.
Thank you.
I knew it, it's just, it's got an earworm, you know?
Now, and your point is that, we can't use something as broad as Route 10 because along Route 10 there are places which might be conceived or considered to be excluded zones. And so if we just used Route 10, it would allow for development in areas where they shouldn't be.
Yeah, that would, Route 10 or,
Or a
or
state road.
actually, the original proposition was all state roads,
Right.
all paved state roads.
Okay, so,
But,
And,
but I was not saying we would then ignore other zoning restrictions along those roads.
Well, then you wouldn't change it.
It would
If
keep,
it-
it would keep them off Shoestrap and Preston and,
Well, those aren't state roads,
exactly,
but
but they're in the
Go ahead.
rural district, you see.
I understand,
So-
but I think it sends the wrong message, because then it becomes is this an ag soil or not an ag soil, and how much, where's my 25% that I can develop? And, so I don't, I think about, I like all the time past your house and up Route 10, and a lot of that is old ag soil. And I don't know why we wanted direct development. I know many people believe that having an agricultural soil base is ridiculous because we're never gonna need it and we're always gonna have plenty of petroleum products to, bring in blueberries from Peru. But, I think
But
that.
no oranges from Florida.
No oranges, yeah. That is so amazing how that whole.
Bananas is next, everybody.
I know. But anyway, back to
Almost.
what we want is to have a local productive, soils be available
Yeah,
to us
no, I-
when we need them.
I wasn't,
So,
it was, when we were doing, Nat was here and we were working through all of the
Mhm.
different things of like, what would the traffic be like around some things? And there seemed to be some logical groupings that you could allow,
mhm,
a B and B, for example,
mhm,
on a paved road,
mhm,
that you wouldn't want out on Dorchester Road.
mhm.
So that was, it
Okay.
wasn't just an either or, it
Right.
was one way to logically group
Mhm,
several areas of town
mhm,
appropriately.
mhm.
But it really only addressed that one criteria, which was traffic impact. And there are other criteria for selecting whether if you look at the rural district as a whole, there is the objectives of the rural district as a criteria. And then, there's the availability of all the other things that go with developing it, like.
Well, traffic is a useful proxy for burden on
Oh,
resources.
Noise is a big one when you get to lodging accommodations of all kinds, because you get people who have got no sense about what the neighborhood is like.
Well, that's,
And,
but
you
that's
know.
saying, knowing how many cars go to that place is a proxy for how much use is there.
There's some loudmouths, you can, any group of people can be different that use a place for lodging, so. And I don't know why we wanna create conflict. I mean, one thing in here that, the whole enforcement is a whole 9 yards, and we really need to have David Kahn to talk about those things, but, and that's the problem. I mean, we don't have, if there's a raging party going on, next door to my house, no one's gonna come and shut them down, because our police officers are limited in their response, and I'm not gonna have somebody come down from Littleton, unless there's, somebody's personally being harmed, so it's not like Hanover, to expect that, we're gonna have some kind of backup for altercations in neighborhoods, so I think we have to be sensitive to that. But on the other hand, we've got great locations, in our villages for lodging accommodations. And I also think being clear about being able to rent your house, short-term rentals, as many people do already for, college events or,
Right.
things at the skiway or whatever is, really good thing. Let's make that clear that that's, what the parameters are. And you all read what happened in Hanover, they still don't have that, their rental housing ordinance has not really been, in effect, because they've had the registration, but they've had no kind of person going in there and doing inspections and, it's just a complaint-driven thing. And, I don't really wanna, shouldn't be based on complaints.
If I look at the rural district, if I go down the rural
Yep.
district, there's really only one no that I put in, and that
Uh-huh.
was for dormitories.
Tories, yeah.
The rest were all yeses or site plan review, so, and basically, I got to that by thinking about it in terms of district-specific.
Well,
Um,
hotel motel also, is it now?
Oh, yeah, hotel
Okay,
motel.
so there's
That's-
two, yeah, hotel motel and dormitory.
You're right, you're right,
So there's
sorry,
just
my
two
bad.
in the rural, yeah.
And I don't, I guess I don't think that hotel motel should be very controversial. I think that, that actually was one of the main things that I really wanted to address with this from the beginning, is, everybody, and David in particular, saying, you can put up a Motel 6 anywhere in town.
Yeah.
And I wanted to change that.
The question is,
Um,
what's the difference between a hotel motel and an inn? And that was like,
But I guess my point is that I got to this sort of relatively positive view of the rural district through the concept of site plan review, which was focused on, which was district specific. And I assume that that's legitimate. Is that right, David? I mean,
Say
you
that
can
again?
change your site plan review depending upon what district you can change the standards of your review. Like, we could change the occupancy, say, of a bed and breakfast that is going into the rural district as opposed to going into the village.
Yes.
Yeah, so, and that gives you a tremendous amount of power that I guess I didn't necessarily realize that we had. And because everyone would always say, well, if you say it's okay, then somebody's gonna put it someplace where it's not okay, because you can't really control that, but you can. If you use,
So
If
how
you
are you?
site
how
plan
are you-
review, you can't say no to the use. All you can do is modify the conditions.
exactly,
But-
and you can do that in a district-specific way.
Well, modifying the conditions, I mean, just the development we have down on River Road, I don't think that was the right thing to be doing, and, fortunately, well, the breakfast on the, or housing on the Connecticut,
okay.
that, I don't think the use is appropriate, but fortunately, it doesn't really bother anybody now that we can get the fire people in there, because they are buffered. But I don't think it's a great use to have all over the rural district, that's a fortunate circumstance.
Right.
But with site plan review, other lots are not gonna be the same, and I just think about.
But suppose he was only
Well,
an 8-unit
okay,
thing,
okay.
and he was doing no leases, and he was doing transient.
How about the expansion of the parking lot at Latham Tavern with non-compliant lighting? And that was not in their site plan, and it was supposed to be direct down, we want everyone to be safe, but then it doesn't get enforced. So I'm concerned that you can't rely on the site plan review to solve those problems, and I think the uses can't always be hidden as well as they are at housing on Connecticut.
So you're concerned that people will will disregard ultimately the commitments they make at the time of site plan review?
Correct.
So that, well, if you believe that, then why do you wanna sit on this planning
That's
board?
exactly
Because
what
that's the crux of the whole
I've
thing.
wondered about that, and you know what, lighting's pretty simple, because you approve a specific fixture, and then that fixture doesn't get installed. Then you come down to, well, what about vegetative buffers? And that's even harder to make sure that those plants are gonna live and actually be effective. And, you know, so it kind of goes on and on. That was probably the most simplest thing. But I stay on here because I want to keep reminding people that even if it's in the regulation, or even if it's on the approved site plan, it doesn't happen. And so we need to be super careful that our conditions of approval are pretty solid, and that,
Or we could delve into, as you pointed out with David, enforcement. And with the lever of being able
well,
to.
it wasn't him, it was our select board that decided not to enforce that. He pointed out and it acknowledged that it was incorrect, and our select board didn't want to enforce it. So,
Mr. Chair,
Mm-hmm.
I want to point out that we spent 25 minutes on this view. I also submitted a proposal, and I would like very much to have a chance to talk to it and have people think about that as well.
Okay,
I think
Any other
one,
comments on
I
this?
think one strategy is to use Nat's extensive work as kind of an overlay guideline, and see if there's places where we can consolidate them down to, you know, what is actually the functional underlying piece of things that fall together naturally.
mhm.
And then that will kind of iteratively get closer to what Rich Brown has put in, which is, you know, very basic and straight, simple.
Yep.
But I think we have to address
Okay.
all the things that Nat has raised and figure out how
Well,
that,
I'd like to speak to that. And
go ahead, Rich.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I haven't read your thing.
Okay.
I didn't,
All right.
was it sent out?
Yes, it was.
It came out shortly after David sent your note. It's short.
Came out on Wednesday.
I find myself in the peculiar position of endorsing the current ordinance in many respects. I feel it's being even sort of conservative.
I just wanna make sure I'm looking at the right thing.
Yeah, I sent a note to David, and David forwarded it to everybody.
Okay, so it's just in the body of the email, it's not a
It's in the
separate
body of the
document.
email, yeah, thoughts about lodging.
Okay.
First off, the big question I still have is, could somebody give me a definition of the problem that we are trying to solve? Please, I'm gonna keep talking and we can come back to my question. I don't see that there are big problems in town regarding lodging. I don't know that there are ongoing problems. I will concede home on the Connecticut was a wrinkle, but that's a settled problem now.
Except that for the
Let
next person.
me finish.
Okay,
Becky.
okay,
Thank
please
you.
do, but for the
Yeah.
next person, that's settled, and we're fortunate that that site is out.
I agree.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me keep going here.
Yep.
The ordinance does permit lodging accommodations in the 4 districts: Lyme Center, Lyme Common, commercial and rural. And that seems reasonable. My note, I think Nat did a good job of incredibly finely coming up with granular distinctions between a lot of different lodging options. But they are gonna be a bear to define and then to enforce. And if we say you can do this one, but you can't do that one in the thus and such district, people are gonna come in and they're gonna stand on their head, or we're gonna have to work around their definitions. And so consequently, I said, I took away from the meeting that we had a couple times ago, lodging is overnight stays, there's not a specific time limit. And that people in lodging would not be able to vote, clearly not be able to vote, not be able to put their kids in school. I'd say they should be able to get their mail here, to set up a mailbox if they were coming and staying for the summer. I absolutely agree, large-scale housing should be on state roads. And I don't specifically care if we include or don't include Dorchester Road, or if we wanted to constrain that. But if you're gonna have a lot of traffic, you wanna make it so that the actual customer traffic doesn't overwhelm the road. It also makes it safer for any of our EMS services and all to be there. So I'm completely content with that. David could probably look up, but 8 to 10 years ago, the board sat around and talked about short-term rentals like VRBO, Airbnb, and that kind of thing. Should we do anything about it? I am not aware that there's been a problem with that. And so, at that time, the board said that's an accessory use of your property. And so, to preserve the spirit of the ordinance, I would say, let's let some number of short-term rentals within a home be considered an accessory use. So we would change the definition, and I don't know whether it's a home occupation or a cottage industry. I would look to you to help think about that. We change that definition to say you could have bump-de-bump units of short-term rental. And that can be any place in town. We might choose to say you need to have a special exception. You know, it might be by right. You could also, we could decide to have it by special exception, and that would give the fire marshal an opportunity, or the fire department, to weigh in and say, yeah, this is fine. Let me finish, right though, that's a good question, I'm sure, write it down. Lodging accommodations would be more than the 3 or 4 or whatever number we choose for the home occupation or for the cottage industry. So that if you had 6 or 8, or turned out that you thought you wanted to do 30, that should be on a state maintained road. The state maintained roads are all in the rural district, where lodging accommodations are already allowed by site plan review. I will note, anybody wanting to do that has to abide by all the other dimensional controls, conservation overlays and such that would occur no matter what you were building. I talked about campgrounds and group homes, you know, and maybe Nat, you may have uncovered a few more things that fit into that. They should be, my sense is it should be permitted in all districts by site plan review. And then the last thing I talked about was apartments. These are people that are renting, presumably for long term. The ordinance doesn't regulate it today, and so I would encourage us not to regulate those, that they come, they live for a year, they might live for 10 years. I mean, we can think of people who rent in town who are absolutely fully part of our town. And so they would be residents, they vote, register the car, all those things. And so this strikes me as a very small change to the ordinance that encapsulates all the varying kinds of lodging without needing to define a whole lot of different categories, and then we suffer because people come in and they say, well, I'm doing this, and it sounds like, we then say, well, that sounds like one of these or one of those. So, thank you for holding your questions, I'll take them.
Can you direct me to the page that where all of this is addressing?
It's right here. You're on.
It is forward, okay.
Yeah, it's 401, but pretty much it's just this line,
Yeah.
okay? That's, and Rich doesn't wanna do anything to that line, and I wanna do this to that.
Right, that's home occupation and light, no.
No, it's lodging and accommodations. Right.
Okay. Can I get one more clarifying
Yeah,
question? If we were to include either of these, where would that be articulated?
Sure. What I would do is, again, I don't particularly care home occupation or cottage industry. That's a term defined at the beginning, and it would say, a home occupation is thus and such and whatever it is. It can also include up to bump units of short-term rental.
So I guess my question, and I
Yeah.
apologize. Let's just say we were to take ABC, well, this, your language
Mhm.
and incorporate it, or we were to take your document and incorporate it, where would would yours be in addition to lines in this table? Or would that be articulated somewhere else that would be able to be referable in this document?
Well, I think probably it would be cut down. I mean, I think Evie's right, there are probably mergers that can be made to decrease the number of lines, but in my view, there are distinctions that have to be made. And I think, you know, for example, I think a hosted short-term rental is going to behave and impact wherever it is differently than an unhosted short-term rental. And so I think that a site plan review makes sense for an unhosted short-term rental, and a set of standards have to be developed for, you know, under those circumstances, you know, where are you going to turn if there's an issue?
Right.
How long will it take you to get a hold of whatever that person is? And how predictable will the renters be if they are not actually supervised by an on-site host?
Mhm.
And I think that's a very real concern. I think that is played out in other communities. And so, for example, I don't have any problem with the whole notion of accessory dwelling and your ability to rent that. It is considered a hosted rental, and it's yes across the board except for the skiway, where nothing is allowed as near as I can tell. But an unhosted short-term rental, I think needs a site plan review if it's going to be in the Lyme Common, Lyme Center, rural or commercial district. I believe that's what mine says. And that's an example of a distinction that I think has to be made.
So you could make table 4.2 for
Yeah.
lodgings and accommodations.
But
That's my question. Okay, so that's my question, because I see there's a lot of detail in this document, in your document, that I would think if we were to adopt something like that, it would have to be articulated to a fair degree to what you've written. So that would be additional language within this document that would give support to people that were doing a site plan review, that would be able to define the different terminologies and articulate the reasoning behind them. So a lot of this language would appear somewhere in here.
Right, and it would also be on a site plan review checklist,
Okay.
which I
is-
gave an example of
Right,
in
which
my
is
handout.
another document other than this.
Yeah, and, you know, that gives you the opportunity also to create a guide for homeowners, which I also put in.
Yeah, okay. And to your,
Yes.
I just wanted to point out, my original statement to Renee was, when we determine what we wanna do, then we can give it to regional planning commission to figure out how best to fit it in. So I don't think we have to fret over that, we need to decide how we want to address lodging accommodations. And then, you know, we can, we can get their recommendation.
Right, okay. And then your document, what you shared was, one of the advantages is it's less specific, or breaks things into fewer categories and subcategories.
Yep.
And in doing so, what I see in yours is it would require some language that articulated what is and is not, would it be a fair thing to say that you're, instead of creating multiple categories, it pretty much, definitions,
Yeah.
it defines you're living in this world or in this world.
Right,
And-
I think that's a useful distinction.
Okay, and one world, one of the worlds is you are considered a Lyme resident, in the
Oh,
sense that
okay.
you can, go to vote in town, send your kids to school.
That's a resident.
Right.
That's an apartment, yes.
Right, and then the other world is you are, a
lodger.
non-resident.
I'm happy to call you a lodger for this
Lodger.
purpose of this
Okay.
discussion.
So
Okay.
there's these two worlds, you're either a resident or you're a lodger.
Right.
And that definition, are you this world or this world, would in part define, what the intent of whatever structure you're doing or defining yourself as, that would be defined by which world you're living in, as a lodger or as a resident, in terms of the use.
I'm learning a little bit about what's called form-based zoning. This is very much a current concept. Vicky, pull me off the wires if I say something wrong. Form-based zoning is, what does this look like? What is, as I stand on the street, how many cars, how many people, what kinds of things are going in this form?
Form
And-
meaning an actual document, or form
No,
meaning?
a
No,
building.
no, no, the
What is the form
physical-
of the building?
the
Does it
physical
look like a
form.
dorm? Does it look like a restaurant?
Yes, exactly, and have I disconnected the, no, I
No.
haven't, okay. Because the power supply goes right there. So, in form-based zoning, you say, I've got a bunch of people living here. And whether they are renters, or whether they are resident renters, whether they are lodgers, whether they own the home, whether they, whatever, is less a concern of the planning board. Because when somebody drives through and they observe this building, these people, then if you can't tell the difference, it doesn't make a difference. Now,
So this is like, if a man running by for his life doesn't notice the difference, then there's no
not
difference.
so much a man by his life, but,
Well, I mean, but what about if you're a neighbor?
Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
think,
what
I think
about
that-
it?
so,
Yeah.
so,
the hosted versus the unhosted, or supervised or managed.
so this is a new,
like
so
this
what
whole
you're,
other
what you're
difference.
requesting sounds like a new term, a new definition, a new, condition in the ordinance. Because right now, it only talks about lodging accommodations. And by the agreement of the planning board 10 years ago, the precedent that they said 10 years ago, short-term rentals don't matter. So,
You know what,
well, wait, no, wait,
we're talking about it now.
okay,
10 years ago,
all right.
things were
So
maybe different.
can,
Okay, so we're talking about it now.
Can I ask David, do you know of problems from short-term rentals in town?
I don't think it has to become a problem for us to actually consider and have a conversation about.
Plano.
It, affects the urgency, let me say it that way. If there are parties all the time, that's a problem. If there's a once a year, the Dartmouth people come, they rent somebody's house, and they make a noise, and then they go away, that's a very different problem.
Well, it depends
And-
on if you're the neighbor or not.
Exactly.
Who gets
Well,
bothered even,
yes and
you
no.
know,
I
over
mean-
graduation weekend every year. I mean, it's not fair.
Okay, so I hear a very clear distinction being drawn. I'm not sure I buy it, but I hear you saying that there's a very different, different condition from unhosted and hosted. What if the host is there and either they're partying along with their guests or
I
they're,
can go to the host and go, you know, by the way, you're my neighbor, please, you know, calm it down. It's hard to go
I agree.
to somebody who's from
Mhm.
Texas and say, you know, this is a little too loud for our neighborhood, and they'll
Right.
just say, well, we're renting this place, so
right,
we
we
can
own
do
it,
what we
right,
want,
sure,
you know,
we're
so,
jerks.
you know,
And-
yeah, it's quite different.
Okay, again, I hearken to how often does this happen?
So
I mean, I
I
like to
think-
be
I think-
evidence-based, but,
I think that what we can work towards is taking Nat's categories and giving a nod to what Rich is saying, think through simplifying them. And I think we may wind up somewhere in the middle.
That's why I think this is like a workbook, because it takes every condition kind of,
okay.
and then allows us to talk as a
group them.
group, you know, is this
Yeah.
okay, or is this how we want it, and then group them. I mean, because I think this is incredibly thorough, and I like the fact that it's very specific, and, you know, I don't wanna have all these categories myself, but I think it makes us think and determine, you know, we're putting a value on, what's acceptable for our community or
And I
not.
think one other thing we can consider, which I think Rich is not saying, but is
Mhm.
underlying, is what are the enforcement possibilities? I mean, if you can't enforce it, there's no point in
Well, if
making
you
a
can't
rule.
Well, I think
You
at
don't
some
have
point,
it. You can't
at
enforce it.
some point, enforcement will occur
Well-
because it's become,
Codified.
yeah, because it's codified and
But some
there's a
things are,
demand
some things are just,
for it.
nobody's ever gonna, you know, if we can just have an honest conversation about when that's gonna happen, you know, somebody's drinking on their front step. Nobody's gonna,
Okay,
Does
but I-
enforcement happen in Hanover?
Well, they've got, you know, 24/7 police, so
Right.
there's always somebody you can call if there's a disturbance or noise.
Right.
So, yes.
Right.
Do permits
Did
get?
it happen in Hanover 50 years ago?
Oh, I'm
yes,
sure.
oh, yeah.
Like, did Dartmouth do this
Well, I'm
50 years
sure.
ago?
At some point in the past, it
When was
probably-
Animal House?
At some point in the past, it probably didn't. But in other words,
yeah,
it
no,
developed.
repeatedly,
And everything
yeah,
is
yeah,
developing.
Yeah, no,
And so
no.
that's what planning is all
No,
about.
no, I understand,
Okay.
I'm just saying that we don't have to eat the elephant all in one bite.
Right.
Okay.
We're gonna work on the problem.
So, so I would agree with that in saying our purpose is not to be reactive, it is to be forward-looking
Sure.
and planning. So I think that to the point that this group has already decided at some point that this was an issue in order to spend as much time as that did on that, would suggest, okay, we gotta consider this, we got to look in going forward. And, you know, Vicky, to your point, I think the granularity of this document is really helpful because it's only from granularity that we can come to a more generalized approach.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to find a more generalized set of terms getting toward closer to where, you know, where you are getting, without knowing what the granularity of it is.
Correct.
So I would propose that, and I think this is what you've mentioned, Vicki, is that we look at this and we start to really understand them, okay? And then we use that knowledge to then find how we can cohort some of these terms to a more generalized, term
Yeah,
that gets us closer to something that's a little bit more simple, or, I don't even wanna say that, I'm gonna say less granular,
Well-
because we know what the individual parts are of that group.
people in general tend to be lumpers or splitters.
That's right.
I guess, yeah. I don't know which that would make me, but,
Well, no, I think what we'd wanna do is provide a document that gives the people in our community clarity about what's allowed. The confusion that came along with what was happening at House on the Connecticut was a fault of our ordinance for not having clear guidelines for what a lodging accommodation was or wasn't.
right,
And, it gave our zoning board no guidance as to what will,
What
the number
is
of
this thing?
units that, was permitted, what could they do? They
And it-
couldn't do
and it-
anything.
It evolved from a B&B into an apartment complex.
Right, exactly.
right.
And
There was a change from
Yeah.
bed,
Right.
breakfast on the Connecticut
Connecticut,
to.
yeah, and so
home.
we
Or
just,
what you would consider actually an extended living situation.
Exactly,
Right.
yeah.
It's not really
An apartment.
No, but the
Because it
state,
doesn't have full kitchens.
no, the
it's
state was
independent
calling it an
living.
apartment, they
Right.
applying the apartment
The
regulation.
state is,
Yeah.
but that's not what it is.
And
right,
so-
it's-
Yeah.
How could we have, given our ordinance today, at what point should we have shut them down?
You know what?
You know, I
I-
mean,
It's-
and-
don't
I don't
even
think
want
retrospective
Yeah,
right
like,
now is
it's
gonna,
not even,
All right,
it
okay,
happened
all right.
organically and
So,
it,
it had,
but it
Right.
doesn't need,
And-
that was fortunate in that location. It happened organically because nobody knew what was going on
Right.
down there,
Mhm.
because they have such good buffers. And,
Right.
but it put a burden on our public,
Absolutely.
our emergency service providers,
well,
because they
and,
didn't know
and
where to go.
on us too, I mean,
Well,
we
yes.
spent a bucket load of time too.
I know,
So,
that's okay.
Can I just mention that this is another example of a distinction that has to be made, is the difference between something like a bed and breakfast and an extended living situation.
Yes.
Right.
Because there is clear creep and sometimes standardization in the site plan review will make sure that you do not carry people longer than some 90-day, say, time limit.
Right.
That you do not write leases, that you do not, that nobody does have a full kitchen, that you do not, you cannot exceed the septic limitations, that, a number of different things that we ultimately did bring to bear. But you bring those to bear up front. If somebody's asking you, can I build this? You have to draw that distinction. If you want a bed and breakfast, then this is that, so this is what it is, and you can't do these things. And,
So-
and
so-
because you want to limit the creep.
I understand
best
your
you can.
point, I totally understand your point.
So you have to
And so-
distinguish between those two things in order to wanna prevent one of them. So
I'm
splitting-
I don't expect you to answer this. But if somebody built a deluxe B&B, and it did have, 2 rooms for each unit, and it did have a microwave, and it did have a hot plate, and it had a sink, and it had a bathroom, what are we gonna do when they come in with an application? You don't have to answer me now, but I think that's the kind of question we're gonna have to answer.
Well, I think that your real point is when they come for an application.
Yes.
Because then they know it's a change of use instead of the creep. And that's the thing, is setting those thresholds so that it's very clear when you've gone, when you're getting to the edge or with what you wanna do, you need to have a new thing. And
Well-
just coming for a site plan
Mhm.
wasn't the right thing because it was very unclear what the use was. And
At
that's
home on the Connecticut.
yeah,
Totally,
very
I
unclear.
completely
Okay, so that's the thing, but you're thinking, oh, they've met a threshold. We need to make those thresholds clear.
Okay, and the, one way we can do that is by having granularity.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Clear
Mhm.
granularity. The other thing that, I think is a helpful litmus test is the question that you ask. And the question that, you know, we would ask ourselves again is, was owned by one individual who was a clear bed and breakfast, and then they sold it, and somebody else bought it, and started using it for something else. When do we interact with suddenly it's just changed hands and that new owner is suddenly using for something different? The structure's already there, it's not changing, but the use is changing. Would we ever know that?
I did go into that in mine, under the enforcement piece.
Mhm.
And basically, if you change use, then it's going to go under the radar until somebody complains.
Okay.
And that's basically ultimately going to be, and that's gonna be the alarm bell.
Right.
You know, there's not gonna be any monitoring.
Right.
So if a complaint is lodged, which is sort of what happened with Home on the Connecticut, then an investigation begins, which is exactly what happened.
Mhm.
And then a new use was there,
Mhm.
and then a site plan review would have to happen because we have a new use. And the site plan review would then
Yeah.
put forward, and this is why I can't understand the site plan review always leading to yes. Because here he is, he subverted the system, changed his use, and we still have to say yes.
Well, I
But-
would argue there is no change of use, because the zoning does not define.
Right, right, okay, so that was our problem. My situation would have been, or let's put it this way, the way that I envisioned this happening and being enforced is that you have to go back through site plan review if upon investigation, it appears that your use has changed. And then there's some automatics, you know, like if you're having Dartmouth parties as a hosted rental, then you're kicked up to unhosted. And then you have to have a site plan review. You know, and then they have to go back, and, because site plan review would have much stricter social events permissibility than an oversight or whatever, than an unhosted.
Would this have been picked up if there was some regular fire code inspection kind of?
Yeah,
Well, that's,
it
was
would
that-
never, I mean, with a
They
voluntary
can't
fire
do that.
department,
Yeah,
well, that's the thing that Hanover has, and Nat's thing talks about is, you know, some sort of a licensing or inspection, and he talked about
Registration.
voluntary
Registration.
certification that it complied with things, and I was like, nope, it needs to be inspected, was my note about
Right.
that. But, you know, even in Hanover, the inspections only have to occur every third year.
okay.
Something like that, so that you get a professional in there to look at the unit to make sure it's safe.
Which I think from
you
a
know.
standpoint of a volunteer fire department
Yeah.
is a manageable thing.
Yeah.
If there is a list or registered list
Right.
of these are some places.
does
these are
Hanover
used.
charge for the inspection?
Yes, yeah, there's a there's a rental, rental application, or,
So-
you know, your rental registration fee goes to pay for, you know, if you read, they've been trying to hire somebody, goes to pay that person's
So
salary.
that would be a way to fund an inspector.
Right.
That would, I mean, they've even talked about that here in Lyme, that,
Yeah,
you know, we have all these inspections that have to
Right.
occur, we gotta charge for them.
yeah, but at least at the time of permitting to have an inspection occur, I mean, that's a huge step forward.
Right. So may I ask just one last question?
Yeah, we need to wrap it up here.
In the case where they can't, let's say there was a change use and that triggered that they do a site plan, because I have no experience with that. In that site plan, is one of the outcomes like, no, guess what, you know, let's just use the example we've been using. I'm sorry, you can't use it in this way, it has to remain a B.
Well, if it's registered, you can pull the registration, which means you've really taken away the use.
Okay, so,
But I don't know whether, I'm just dreaming that up.
Yeah, I
There's
would
no
need to
registration.
Oh, but
look
if we
into
had it,
what,
Oh, I
you
see.
know, how that would have to work.
Right. Well, that's a different thing, I mean, I think what we need to do is, what do we want? But what we did get out of that was a very thorough fire and safety review, which is gonna benefit all those tenants.
Mhm.
And, you know, and thank goodness there hadn't, you know, there were no number of like, false alarms and fire calls, and people would go down there for a real fire call and wouldn't know where to go.
Mhm.
So that got it all straightened out.
Okay,
So
as a
here's a
side note,
question, Vicki.
Yeah,
How does the state have the clout to drive compliance and the town doesn't? It's not like the state sends
because
the
there's,
Gestapo
no,
or
there's a state
or the
fire
housing
code.
police.
There's a fire code,
Well,
which
but-
doesn't apply to single
But you
family
can violate a
residences.
fire code, you know, I mean,
Well, many people do, but I mean,
Right.
you know, at least the intention is, you know, by educating and making
but
sure that a
ultimately,
building.
what is their leverage?
Well, I mean,
I
you
would
know,
say shutting a place down.
Yeah, so how do they shut a place down? How do they?
Fire
Well,
marshal,
it's-
fire
it's
marshal
public.
can go in
Yeah,
and.
and
And he
Yeah.
just posts a sign?
Exactly.
And so then the police are,
Exactly.
Right.
okay, so why can't that kind of mechanism take place in a town?
Okay, because we don't have the authority, and also, then what do you do with the people that have been displaced? I mean, it was we tried.
What does the state do when they have to
I
display?
I don't know, I don't know.
Right, I'm just saying that these are, there is, you can't just throw up your hands and say there is no way to enforce anything. Because,
Well, light fixtures that don't look anything and don't perform anything like the light fixtures that were approved, I mean, that, I don't wanna even get into, you know, occupancy and safety, you know, fire safety, but, you know, we've got a more basic problem than that. But I would hope, I mean, you know, I think that the house on the Connecticut provides a great opportunity for housing, and I'm really glad it's there. And I really, you know, I'm glad nobody had to be displaced, and I'm glad he had
But
the
I-
wherewithal to be able to make it safe.
I guess my point is that, in fact, safety and fire safety and code and everything, that's actually more basic than the light fixture. And,
It is.
and the
But it's
fact
not
is,
it's
and
more
the fact
enforceable.
is,
Yeah.
that it's more enforceable because people realize.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
and at some level, you know, you're right, you know, that, or Rich is right, the parties are gonna be at the low end of enforceability. But if they occur repeatedly, which is the way that I had set it up,
Right,
then enforcement bites more.
right.
And,
Right.
and so a single event triggers, you know, a warning
Scrutiny.
or a scrutiny or a review
there's some
Right.
or
mechanism
something,
there, sure.
but repetitive events have to trigger something with more consequence. So, you know, that's and I think, you know, but if you don't set that up, then,
Right,
then you have no reason to expect anybody's
Because if there is
gonna comply.
if there is a registration, it means we have a list, and if we say that the only way you can have this type of facility is if it's registered, and we've said, we're gonna pull your registration, then the other thing that might be on that registration is the insurance provider. And one of the conditions or levers of enforcement is that we then notify the insurance company that they are operating without
Well,
without
yeah, I don't know about that, but, I mean.
That sounds like lawsuit
The
coming
fallback,
out.
the fallback for most people is they've got their single-family home or their accessory dwelling unit, and they can fall back on renting that as a whole unit, or, you know, or not having it for short term. So it's not that we're you know, stealing their economic use of their property,
Right.
but there's fallback, you know, to
All right,
what
so I
they,
guess
how
we're,
they can
because
use.
I feel like when I'm following the conversation, we're bouncing between a couple
With
different issues.
different things, yes.
Okay.
And the parties
The
really
party
aren't,
thing,
that's something else
The
compared
party
to fire
thing
safety.
can happen with people that live there all year round, and they're
Yeah,
just a pain
yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah,
tuchus.
yeah, and
Ma-
for, yes.
Mr. Chair, before I offer a motion to adjourn, could I ask one more question? Does the town have a noise ordinance?
No.
Okay, thank you.
You were about to say
Mr. Chair.
something, David.
Oh, I was just gonna say.
Well, wait a second, noise is mentioned
It's
in
mentioned
the,
in
in
the-
the ordinance.
As a
Is there
As a
an
nuisance.
Is there a noise ordinance?
No. No.
Okay,
Is it mentioned in the zoning? Vaguely.
And measurement of noise is also, needs to be more precise.
Yeah,
So we need to add that if we wanna use that as a criteria for
I
evaluation.
use this, somebody riding their snowmobile on their own property and somebody 3 houses down can hear it. They find it objectionable, but the person riding the snowmobile does not. What, is it objectionable or not? It's subjective.
Well, so what that would trigger is most likely they would call Sean, well, not Sean, but Tony, they say Tony. And Tony will go up and talk and say, hey, you know what? People are complaining.
But
Right,
We
but
don't
that's
have
just
it,
a
we don't-
snowmobile,
yeah,
you know,
That's
yeah.
nuisance.
It's, again, it's a subjective,
Noise thing.
some
So
people
I-
would argue that it's you live in a rural area and that is a natural noise within a rural
Exactly.
area.
I mean, chainsaws.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or the Detroit diesel on a logging skidder, you can hear it
Yeah,
for
I will,
miles.
we adjourn.
We do need to adjourn, but I
David
would
was
like
about to say
to,
something.
Just as a side note, on the Breakfast of Connecticut, Home on the Connecticut, I got an email from the fire marshal's office last week. They have completed all the issues that the fire marshal had, and they are all corrected.
What about the driveway?
The driveway is, they're gonna be starting construction,
That was an issue, right?
but that's a fire department, not a fire marshal issue, but that is,
State fire marshal, town fire
So
department.
the state fire marshal didn't care if we could get an engine there.
well, because at the moment, there's nobody living down there for the,
Oh, it did.
That's
Well,
barn.
other than himself.
right, but,
go ahead.
No,
I just have it before we dismiss, none of the dates worked with Ted,
Oh,
so I have to go back and just ask.
Okay, good. Every opportunity for a celebration of somebody's great service for the community.
But you were only hitting on like Thursdays, right? Can we try
No,
a different-
Fridays, we had
Yeah,
Fridays.
Can we try a different day of the
Yeah.
week, maybe? And,
And
well, I
tried-
think it has to do with, a big party that he's, or at least one of the dates was right before a big party.
He's turning 80.
No, right after, yeah, it was the day
Yeah.
after.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
I told you this was gonna happen.
yeah.
Yeah, and do you know Tim's email?
yes.
Oh, yeah, I do.
All right, cause I just am talking to him on the phone and I feel bad.
You can't talk to him on the phone, he doesn't have a cell phone.
No, on his land.
Oh.
Not his land. So, can I just, look at, we're gonna look at May. And, so I'm just gonna ask, just, show of hands, May 14th, how many people,
That's a meeting.
I thought it was the
That's a Thursday.
7th and 21st.
No,
No,
second.
14th and 28th.
It's the second and fourth Thursdays.
Well, my calendar thinks that it doesn't do it right.
it, oddly enough, I think April has 5 Thursdays,
Oh, is that why?
so
Okay.
next Thursday is not a meeting, the Thursday after that is not a meeting, and then, so there'll be a 2-week break between this
Right.
meeting and the next one.
14th and the 28th.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, somebody with knowledge of these devices will have to,
In calendars.
yeah, help me out. So, is the 7th,
Yep.
it is a planning or not planning?
No,
Okay,
No.
so can people do the 7th?
yes.
How many people cannot do the 7th?
I probably can't.
Okay, 2 people. How many people could do the 21st? How many people can't?
I can't.
2 people.
Why don't we ask Tim,
That's what
go the other direction?
well, I think that's what I'm gonna
Get
do
an
once I
assortment
get
of
once I
dates
get
for
an
him.
email.
Well,
And
even
then-
then, ask Tim, and then whoever can make it,
Can make it, whoever can't. And that's
I mean,
kinda what I
yeah,
wanted to
yeah,
do.
yeah.
So if somebody could send me his email, I'll just say, can you pick a date? And then that's what it's gonna be. And is it okay if we migrate off of Thursdays?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. Is on that week of the 7th, let's just look at a Wednesday, the 6th. How many people are a no on the 6th? How many people are a no on the 13th? How many people are a no on the 20th?
So you
All right.
got the
Sorry.
whole month?
No, I've got another meeting.
Yoga
on-
class or something?
No, I've got another meeting where I actually work and make money on Wednesday the sixth, and then my daughter's getting married on May 16th, and I'm gonna be gone those,
David, are any of
those 2
those
weeks,
dates
so
good for
sorry.
you?
But that's okay.
Wednesdays, midweek's difficult for me.
Okay. All right, so I think we're gonna, if it's okay to everybody,
Yeah.
we're gonna talk to Tim, or I'm gonna talk to Tim, Tim's gonna choose a date, and that's what it is, and then we'll
Okay.
send out the invitations to people that can make it, great,
Yeah,
and if they
Yeah,
can't, that's great.
and it's totally fine if you guys wanna, cause I'll go and have my own little celebration with Tim if I can't make it.
Great.
So I'm gonna take him to lunch or do something like
Sure.
that, so it's,
Okay.
totally fine, though I'll miss being with you all,
Fair enough, that's
Yeah.
well said.
and I've gotta see my daughter get married.
Okay.
Are you gonna send
He
it
has
to him?
one comment, but
Okay.
we have to go, yeah.
That's okay. Yeah, I know, I just wanted to, offer up, if you're looking at short-term rental information and seeing how some other towns do it, town of Springfield, in the last year, almost 2 now, they instituted, short-term rental, site plan review. So not necessarily registration, cause they didn't wanna go that route, they felt that was a little, just a little too much, too fast for them, for their town. So they went through site plan review and said, hey, if you have a short-term rental, please come in, we're gonna be amending this way. So Springfield, New Hampshire is one.
And they're a small town like Lyme.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's a really nice, recommendation.
Mhm. So take a look there, or look back at some minutes. They've had, quite a few over the last year, so,
Cool.
and happy to provide more information on that at the next meeting if you'd like.
Okay. Well, I think we do need to go, and, our next meeting, we will be talking again about,
Conversions.
conversions,
H.
H.
Yeah.
Nat and I will get our separate concerns,
Good.
Send them to me, and I will.
to David, and then David can distribute those.
And I'll just be sending comments, cause I'm gonna be in wedding land, so.
And I'm gonna send whatever the results of the date is to.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing that, it's,
Oh,
heartbeats, herding cats is really hard.
Social secretary.
Record.
I would be the last person you would ever want as that.
Thank you for putting that.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.